Thursday, April 17th, 2025. I hope you are having a wonderful week. Let's start off this video with this quote from Walter Deemer. Follow him on X, by the way. Look at his picture. He's not going to provide you the most exciting stuff, but I like boring. Okay, when the time comes to buy, you won't want to. Walter Deemer. This reminds me, I saw this quote and it reminded me of November of 2022. I made a video on my TikTok account essentially saying I am bullish. Bitcoin was under $16,000. I am bullish. I was not calling the bottom. All I was saying is that I was going to start buying. And let me tell you something. I did not buy aggressively enough because buying crypto at that time was scary. Even with the mindset of, yes, Bitcoin's going to hit a new all-time high. Everyone's calling for $12,000 Bitcoin. In hindsight, it just felt like, duh, we should have been buying Bitcoin under $20,000. But when the time comes to buy, you won't want to. I did not want to buy, and yet I did. And so just remember that for future reference. Remember that. Remember how you felt last week. You know, I fell into this trap of I was expecting Liberation Day, so-called Liberation Day, to be a buy the event kind of thing. But we had another week of dump. And so then it got really scary and it was very difficult to buy crypto that week. And I did not play that perfectly, I fully admit. But, okay, don't be like this guy though. Right? This is so ridiculous. You know, quoting TikTok investors, if you follow this account on X, it's just really sad. So the stereotypical TikTok investor saying really dumb things and talking all moon boy stuff. All right, please. Do not be like this guy. Down $30,000 all time, has $2,500 in their account. I can pretty much assure you that this person is an aggressive options trader. Trading options is not smart. You know, you want to buy leaps or something, long out expiration options, but by all means, for the love of God, do not do weeklies. All right, but moving on. Yeah, don't be like this guy. Sell, even this guy, I would say sell everything, get out. Okay, get out, get a job, cool off, go away. All right, so interesting stuff here. Companies are buying Bitcoin Q1 2025 edition. So you can see the first two quarters of 2025, first quarter of 2025, last quarter of 2024. This is an interesting phenomenon. Now, Bitwise here, it's a little bit of a mistake. They're saying companies buying Bitcoin. Two of these are Bitcoin miners, Marathon Holdings and Riot Platforms. And so they're not buying Bitcoin, but they are adding Bitcoin through their mining. But MicroStrategy, now we do have to acknowledge MicroStrategy is a major player in this. They've been buying aggressive amounts of Bitcoin, but still looking at this chart overall, it's just really interesting to see the growth of Bitcoin buys. And as it has become more available for companies to be able to buy Bitcoin, we're seeing this chart certainly have an increase. And on a long enough timeline, this is super, super bullish for Bitcoin. 688,000 Bitcoin are held by companies, top 5 companies, by all companies. And obviously a great deal of that is MicroStrategy holding 528,000 Bitcoin, or 1/40th of the supply, which is not something I'm too excited about. We'll see, especially if they have to end up selling their Bitcoin. But hey, let's keep this party going. Total value of Bitcoin holdings, $57 billion as of today. Number of public companies holding Bitcoin, 79. So that's a 17.91% change quarter over quarter. 12 new companies bought Bitcoin this quarter. This is what I care about most in this graphic. I mean, number of Bitcoin bought. I mean, MicroStrategy has been buying a lot. Okay, but I want to see more breadth. I want to see more companies buying more Bitcoin. And this is a good sign that we're seeing that being an option. Quarterly Bitcoin holdings, same chart, pretty much the same thing, but just another perspective. That's quite an increase over what we've seen over the last several years. So moving on, another potentially short-term bullish thing, whale address count. The number of addresses holding 1 to 10K Bitcoin has risen steadily since March 5th. Up from 1,944 to 2014, whale accumulation is picking up at a fast pace, last seen in April 2024, signaling renewed confidence from large holders. Now, I want to point out a sort of elephant in the room. April of 2024, was that a time necessarily that we saw Bitcoin's price shoot off like crazy? No, Bitcoin had already peaked. Bitcoin peaked at $74,000, a little under $74,000, and then it just chopped for the next 6 months. But whales will buy confidently, and they are buying right now, again, on a long enough timeline. That's a very bullish thing. I would not expect this to have a significant short-term effect on the price of Bitcoin, but everything is something, and this is something. Okay, moving on. Bitcoin versus gold. All right. Before I share this chart or talk about this chart, just because I share a chart does not necessarily mean that I am endorsing the chart, okay? And I have a few concerns with this particular chart, but this guy, Joe Consorti, I am now following him. Bitcoin follows gold with a circa 100 to 150 day lag. When the printer roars to life, gold sniffs it out first, then Bitcoin follows harder. And we can see, okay, so what does that mean? That means, if we're lagging behind gold, that Bitcoin is going to probably, hit new all-time highs. 2024, 2025. Here's kind of an issue with this chart. I don't know what to say. I mean, you're looking, what was this bounce at the end of 2021? There was no necessarily a big move higher in the price of gold. And then look at this divergence here at the end of 2020, actually early 2022, where gold's price shot up and Bitcoin did not follow suit. And so there's lots of outliers on this chart. I wouldn't even call them outliers right now. There's lots of examples on this chart where this isn't necessarily the case. Now, there is something, and the reason why I even shared this chart in the first place is there is something that we have been able to observe over time, which is where gold's price will spike up and then that will roll over into other assets, namely the stock market. And so does that necessarily mean that Bitcoin is excluded from that? No, it's just something to keep on your radar. Maybe this time is going to follow times in the past with the stock market, and Bitcoin correlates with the stock market, mostly with the Russell 2000. And so we'll see how this goes, but it's not something that I'm going to look at this chart and ape in and YOLO, and now's the time for Bitcoin to go up to $200,000 in 2025. We'll see. So moving on. Speaking of gold, Goldman Sachs has raised their 2025 gold target to $3,700 with a maximum target of $4,500. I am not another one that I am not necessarily endorsing. And the reason why is because we tend to see this kind of thing happen where Goldman Sachs or whomever else on Wall Street will give you price targets, and price targets that they give you can be deceptive. There's a lot of times, I don't want to put on any tinfoil hat. There's a lot of times that you'll see a price target like this, and what could it be designed to do? Maybe, I'm not saying that Goldman Sachs is doing this, I'm just giving you an example. Maybe it's designed to get you to hold on a little bit longer than you were planning to do so that they can sell. Okay, I've seen examples of this happening a lot over time where you'll see these new price targets given by institutions with lots and lots of incentive for you to sell, for you to not sell, so that you could be their exit liquidity. Is that what's going on this time around? I'm not accusing Goldman Sachs of anything, but I will say that I think $4,500 for 2025 is a little too aggressive, and maybe even $3,700 that we're nearing a local top. People whose opinions I respect a lot more than just some random quant at Goldman Sachs have kind of given $3,300 as a short-term peak and then a chop with gold. But listen, I rewatched a video from January 2nd, my Bitcoin price prediction for 2024, 2025, January 2nd of 2024. And I said I was very bullish on gold. in that video when gold was not in fashion. It was under $2,000. And I am still very bullish on gold. And I'm very, very bullish on gold miners. And so it's not necessarily something that you need to be concerned about if you hold gold. And anyone who holds gold should have that mindset that they're holding it for long term, maybe even for the rest of their lives. So don't be too concerned about that. But I don't take anything like this at face value. Any estimate that you see from Wall Street on price targets, just know that there may be an ulterior motive. But okay. Moving on, still talking about gold, and I make no apologies. I want to talk about gold on this channel and not just crypto, not stocks, not just stocks. I want to talk about gold as well. This chart's really fascinating to me. And it's something that, I have been wondering what in the world is going on with the gold to silver ratio. I mean, we're in a very microscopic period of time where gold is way, way, way more valuable than silver, but you can see throughout history. I mean, we're talking about 3200 BC, a 1-to-3 ratio, 1-to-9 in Egypt, 1-to-2, 1-to-10, 1-to-12. The highest that you see on this chart at any point throughout history, up until recently at least, is 1-to-15. You can see that all throughout history. Greece, 333 BC, Rome, 207 BC, United States in 1792, and Clown World, a 105-to-1 ratio. Before I got into crypto, this is back in 2011. If you look at the silver chart in 2011, this is where I was baptized into making all the rookie mistakes that people make. I saw the silver chart go parabolic. And it went up to $50 and got rejected there, which is what its peak was in 1982, I think, early 80s. And I saw the gold silver ratio and I was like, this is going to make itself up. We're coming back, the silver's coming back. And so I was picturing a day where we would see $1,000 an ounce silver imminently, like within the next couple of years. And so I was doing leverage buying of ETFs. I just made every mistake. And then silver went over the next several years down to something like $15. But the reason why I'm saying all of this is I could see at some point, I mean, when I say some point, listen, this may not even happen in our lifetimes, but I could see at some point a reversion to the mean where silver is back at least down to a 15-to-1 ratio instead of this clown world ratio that they're in right now. Something to keep in mind, I still have a lot of silver that I bought in 2011 that I'm not going to sell. I have no intention of selling, but I'm probably going to keep that for the rest of my life. And hopefully when I die and my kids inherit that they don't just go out and sell it right away or even worse, spend it. I remember when I graduated high school in 2000, somebody gave me a silver coin and I spent it. It was only worth $6 at the time, but still, this is so dumb. All right, moving on. XRP. I'm sorry, I can't take this seriously. Oh my goodness. What? XRP, $1,452.81 XRP on September 1st, 2025. Anyone know if this is real? And if you're wondering why I liked this, I'm going to unlike it right now. That's my way of saving charts that I can share in this video. And guys, come on. I'm sorry, XRP Army. If this is even under the most bullish scenario, we're not getting anywhere near $1,452.81 XRP on September 1st of 2025. I know most of you know this. I mean, XRP is the third largest market cap non-stable coin crypto in all of existence. A $1,000 XRP would make it bigger, much, much bigger than the entire crypto market cap. There would be major, major problems if XRP went to $1,452. I see a chart like this. Now there's some claim of innocence asking anyone know if this is real, but come on, Steph. I don't know who you are. I hit the follow button for anyone whose charts that I share. All right, moving on. This is really interesting to me. M2 money supply growth is pumping money printer in China is working the hardest, the rest will follow suit. Now I'm at the rest will follow. So the rest will follow. So I'm actually not asking that. Carl B. Menger, never heard of Carl, but I saw this chart and it was eye-opening to me. Mainland China, 44.89 trillion. I didn't realize the extent of this. I was up until now. But then you look at that, you look at China in comparison to the United States. You know, we peaked in 2021 and then kind of went down a little bit after really, you know, decades of aggressive money printing, and then COVID came and we turned it on big time. But the United States it's inching up. I wouldn't be surprised if we had another COVID-like M2 money supply increase. European Union's just been flat. Japan's been pretty down. It's just been negative. And then Germany and the lime green there, if you can't tell that's Germany, it's hard for me to see. But Germany, it's just kind of climbing. But then China, my goodness. So, you know, I want to do a lot more research on this, and I really want to think through what kind of an effect that's going to have globally. But, you know, it still seems like even though China's M2 is much greater, and it's so hard for me to believe this. And then even think about what would happen in the event of a global financial crisis in China. But my mindset has always been that the United States printing money is the name of the game when it comes to crypto. But we'll see. We will see. Moving on. Average bear market decline. You are here. Okay, I just want to state again, I do believe that the stock market has peaked. Now, we'll see how that works itself out. If we have a move up to new all-time highs in 2025, I wouldn't be shocked. But if not, then, you know, we still have potentially historically further down to go. And I would think that the rest of 2025 is how it's going to play itself out in the stock market. Now, does that mean that Bitcoin will not hit a new all-time high in 2025? I actually think I would lean towards yes. I don't think Bitcoin is going to hit a new all-time high in 2025. 2026, I'm on board with that, which I know, all right, what about the 4-year halving cycle? If you're new to this channel, let's just get caught up for a second. I'm not an entire believer in the 4-year halving cycle. So I think that this is how it's going to play itself out, is that we do have at least 27% in the S&P to go still, but perhaps even greater than that. So sorry to end it on a sour note. One more thing that I'll point out here, really fascinating to me. Last week was the fourth most volatile week in over 40 years. And so, wow, what do we have here? We have the COVID crash, we have the great financial crisis, and we have the Black Friday crash of 19. Was it Black Monday? Well, it was Black Monday, my bad. The Black Monday crash of 1987. And here's the fourth most volatile week in over 40 years. 2000, the great financial crisis, that most volatile week, I think that was the Lehman week. That did not mark a bottom. We ended up bottoming out in March, 7 months later. But, you know, we now have quantitative easing, so we'll see. Again, if you want to make an argument that we have bottomed out, you can make a compelling argument. And if you want to make an argument that we're going to hit new all-time highs, or even for sure that we are potentially at a local bottom right now, sure. My mindset is going to pay attention to the 200-day moving average in the S&P and see where we go from there. If we break through that, I'll be very bullish short term, but we have a lot of work to do before then. And as always, you know, it's all tied to crypto. So as the S&P goes, as the NASDAQ goes, as the Russell 2000 goes, so will crypto to some extent, not 100% correlation. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. That is all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will most certainly be seeing you in another video. Peace.